This is the Shoemaker Films Podcast.
Welcome to the Shoemaker Films Podcast. I'm Dane Shoemaker. I'm here with Luke Bernardi of Bernardi Films. Luke, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. This is fun. Feel like we started following each other on Instagram maybe a year ago or something like that. And I don't do wedding films at all, but I'm just blown away by the quality of the work you do. I mean, there's such a wide variety that's out there that you're getting with wedding stuff, but I feel like these are like high-end films, and some of them are like reality shows too, right? Like I want to dig into that a little bit, but can you tell me about, how you got into this, what's your business like, a little bit of your background?
Absolutely. So first I want to start, I feel like there's a perception about wedding films that they're kind of a lower tier art form, especially in the filmmaking community. I feel like people view wedding films as just a thing you do to make a little extra money. But I've been doing wedding films for about 10 years now, and I've really just decided, how can we elevate the art form so that it's a more respected form of like filmmaking? And so the way we do that is through original compositions. So we're making our own music to the wedding film. We're the only video company in the world that makes our own wedding film music. And we also incorporate those reality TV style interviews. So we're interviewing the friends and family, we're interviewing the parents, the bridal party, and we're telling the story from the perspective of the people that know the couple the most.
What is that process? I mean, well, before we get into that, like what's been the evolution of like, what was your first wedding that you shot, and like what has that progression looked like over the last couple of years or decade? I don't know how long you've been in the business, so.
Yeah, so I started filming weddings when I was in high school. I got really lucky. I had a great mentor in high school, Jeff Ash, who kind of brought me along as an assistant for his business and kind of just showed me the basics. And man, my wedding films from when I first started to now, it's completely different. To imagine, like, yeah, basically I've been doing this for about over a decade now. And so I've been working for all the top studios. You kind of freelance in the beginning. You're just working for whoever you can find to give you jobs, right? In 2020, we all lost our jobs, essentially, in the wedding industry. So I used that time to just kind of reflect and be like, I need to be in control of my own financial future. I can't be dependent on other people for my life, So I decided to start my own business and just use all the things that I've learned from those past 10 years and all the good things and all the bad things to avoid. And I started Bernardi Films, and then the original music thing came in because I've been a musician my whole life.
Yeah.
I'm really a musician that got a camera, right? So I was like, how can I work this musician, this like talent that I have into my films? And so I was like, why don't we just make our own music to the wedding film? Because I found that everything was just too dramatic or either too campy, with like royalty-free music.
There's always so much stock and royalty music out there that, there's probably a lot, but yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It came out of necessity.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like your style is partly the sounds that you use. We're so visual as like filmmakers and photographers. But really your sound is equally as important to what your style is. So I'm like, why don't we make our own sounds,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always say that like video or, videos audio is the most important part, right? Especially like I do a lot of podcasts. So obviously podcasts they have to be audio. You can listen to podcasts in the car, but if you're listening to like a brand story or any video, I always start with the music first and then layer on the, interviews and then layer on the B-roll last. So like the visual part is actually like the least important part of a video in my opinion. So I'm aligned 100% with that statement.
Yeah, when we watch movies, what the characters say, we're not watching silent movies, we want to hear the dialogue between the characters, and I feel like that applies to wedding filmmaking as well.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely science behind it, but like I feel like auditory stuff is like jars more emotions. Like, you know, you hear something like, you know, like an ice cream truck or something like that, and that immediately brings you back to like summer when you were like 10 years old or something like that, and you start feeling nostalgic and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like audio music is really sets the tone for something. So do you compose all original stuff for every video that you do, every wedding film, or?
We do it for the teasers right now. We do occasionally do it for the full wedding film. That's a bit more involved of a process. But for our teasers that we post on Instagram, we're doing original music.
And a lot of it's, yeah, I mean, I got to go back and watch some of them, but it's like cinematic. So you have these like piano hits,
Yeah,
and then like, you know, these like, you know, strings and stuff like that. So how do you let's just go into that. How do you come up with musical compositions? I mean, what tools are you using? What instruments are you playing? You know, what's that process like?
you're right. So we use a lot of samples through Splice, a sample company, and we kind of get like the like sounds and the instrumental hits through there. But I'm a piano player as well as a guitar player and a vocalist. So we are composing like actual songs with lyrics occasionally when we feel like it fits.
Yeah.
And so we'll ask couples, we'll be like, hey, what are 4 artists that you love? Or like, what's the last concert that you've seen? And they'll give us artists, and we'll base that music in that world. So kind of like a aggregate of all the artists that they list. We'll kind of make something that's kind of inspired by that.
Yeah.
A lot of videographers, honestly, I've gotten a lot of negative DMs about this from other videographers. Really? Yes.
You know you're doing something good then.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're getting hate on Instagram.
I get a lot of hate from other videographers on
about
Instagram.
what? Like you're making me look bad, buddy, or like what?
Yeah, it's like, oh, now we have to be musicians. I get that comment all the time. They're like, it's already so hard to make wedding films. Now we have to like score original films. And I'm like, well, you don't have to do that, but that's something that I'm just bringing to the table to differentiate my business from other businesses.
No, so. That is such a compliment in disguise that like people are coming after you like, thanks a lot. Now we gotta be John Williams over here, like for these weddings. I'm like, that's how you have to be different, right? And set yourself apart and take things to the next level. Like it's a competitive field, sure. And that's, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I'm jealous. The fact that people are DMing you mean things, that means you're doing something good.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I love mean comments on the internet. It's great. I live for it. Yeah. It's so funny because like the more successful you get is like the more love you get, but also the more hate you get. Yeah. So you kind of have to have the emotional like capacity to not get upset over every little comment that you read on. Yeah. Especially like we had a wedding film last year that got over 1 million views on Instagram, which was like absolutely nuts for a wedding film. Yeah. And that the amount of like comments just reading it was just so overwhelming. Yeah. But that was really cool.
That's awesome. Well, they're such feel good. Like I've actually done a couple weddings and they're great. They're fun. Like the brides were amazing. Like it was a fun experience, and like people are just, it's such an emotional day, and just people get like, I'm not gonna lie, I've watched a couple of your films. I'm like, oh my God, this is like really good stuff here. Like, and like, I don't even know who these people are. Right. So it's just an emotional day. So like, I think everyone, especially if you're married or whatever, you can kind of relate to, you get kind of nostalgic about your wedding day and stuff like that. So
I 100% agree. And when we talk about like wedding films being emotional, I would say there's a difference between videography and storytelling, right? So a videographer will capture an emotional moment, maybe like a dad crying the first time he sees a bride. Yeah. But a storyteller will take the dad aside and be like, what was going through your head when you saw your daughter for the first time? And I had this happen at one of my weddings. He was like, when I saw my daughter walking down the stairs and I saw her for the first time, I was thinking back to when she was 3 years old, and I was sitting there with my dad, her grandfather, and we were just like, she was like playing dress up with like all the dresses. Yeah. And he's like, I was crying because I was thinking of my dad who passed. And so that's why he was crying, is because he was having that emotional connection. Like, I miss my dad. And that made the scene so much more like emotional, is like interviewing him afterwards.
How do you, I mean, you got to plan this stuff out, right, in advance. Like, hey, your father of the bride interview is like during this time, right? Like you have to map this stuff because those weddings are insane, like the schedule, right?
Nuts.
So how do you manage that schedule with like the photographer, wedding planners? Like what's that look like?
Yeah, so one of the things that we really started doing is doing multi-day coverage. So the day before, maybe at the rehearsal dinner, we'll get a ton of interviews. We'll get all the family telling amazing stories, and it really gets people into the wedding mood, right? So we kind of have the story already crafted before we even show up on the wedding day. So we kind of like doing a mix of planned and unplanned interviews. So planned the day before, right? We'll do like a professional interview setup like this, and then we'll do drunk interviews at the end of the night. Nice. And I feel like I like the dichotomy of like planned interviews and drunk interviews, because it's a kind of like fun mix, you know.
That's cool.
People say some wild shit, especially the groomsmen. Said some pretty you get some stuff that like you can't put on the internet. I wish I could put all this stuff that we get in the interviews on the internet, but I would get canceled.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do you give most of the stuff then to the bride and groom? Like,
yeah, we give the full uncut interviews to the bride and groom, and it's honestly their favorite part of the wedding video experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, we had our wedding film too. This was back in 2016, so you know, these were camcorders that the guys were using. But it's like night and day looking at stuff that you do versus, you know, from almost 10 years ago, right?
That was me with the camcorders. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an old concept, the interviews, you know, because like people would come up to the tables and do it. We're just kind of like elevating it a little bit.
So what about like, when did like the reality show style like edits start popping up? Are people asking you for that? Did you have the idea to pitch to a couple? Like how did that?
Yeah, so there's actually a videographer in Texas, Justin Porter, who...
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah, I follow him, yeah.
Justin Porter, he's kind of started the reality TV wedding thing. Yeah. And it's a kind of a thing, like it's an old tradition that kind of is revamped. And so we kind of just, our take on it is we do that, but we kind of do it more in like a Netflix doc style as opposed to like reality TV. Because we found that like some clients were kind of turned off with the idea of like our wedding being a reality TV show, right? Because often like what's associated with reality TV is like controversy,
drama,
shit talking, drama.
Yeah.
So we wanted ours to be like a little bit more classy. Yeah. So it's kind of like a classy reality TV show is kind of what I was going for.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Was there, I mean, any really fun weddings that you've done that you know, any good stories or funny stories or, you know, things like that you might want to share?
Oh, I have a ton. Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually filmed a wedding last year where Donald Trump showed up.
Oh, wow.
At the wedding. And so I got interviews of all the people talking about like their interactions with him, like they're going to the bathroom and like Donald Trump walks in. He's like, "You boys are so great. You boys are terrific. Like the best dressed guys in the world." And that was really fun because that was like one of my goals is to have like a president in my wedding video, and that was like one of the coolest moments. One of my favorite weddings that I did last year. The bride stepped on a beehive. It was nuts. So she had this idea that she wanted to like get a shot of her and her husband running through a field, right? And the husband's like, "I don't know if that's a great idea. Like it's like tall grass." And she's like, "No, I have a vision. We're doing this." So they start running. We're filming it, and then she just stops and she goes, "Oh shit! I just stepped on a beehive." And then a swarm of bees start attacking all the photographers and wedding planners and all her bridal party. Everybody got stung. It was absolutely crazy. So the bride goes back to the bridal suite, right? And she has to take off her dress, right? And there's bees still living in the dress, and they all like reattack everyone. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. But that's probably the most like nuts thing
I can only imagine. Was anybody allergic or anything? Or
Thank God. We had to go puff some Benadryl, but
yeah.
thankfully no one was deathly allergic.
Dude, can you imagine if she like got bit on her face and just puffed up like right before her wedding? Or oh my God, that'd be crazy.
The worst thing I ever heard was a bride getting food poisoning on her wedding day, and she just spent the entire day on the can. It's so sad.
This is one you were at?
This is not one I was at. Yeah, this is one I heard about, but
that would be pretty bad.
And my lowest moment was when I crashed a drone at an Indian wedding. I thought I was trying to get a shot of the brat ceremony where they're on the horse and they're all like dancing. Yeah. It was like they were setting off smoke bombs. It was like the coolest shot. I was like, this is the coolest shot I've ever gotten. And then I'm like, all right, I got the shot. And then I fly back over to the trees to like land. Yeah. And then I clipped a tree and it got stuck in a bush, like 30 feet high in the air. I couldn't get to it. I tried for like hours to find this drone. Yeah. So I leave at the end of the day and I go back home and my mom's like, you're finding that drone. And I'm like, I can't find the drone. It's like buried in like bush. And she's like, no, we're finding it. And so we bring like landscaping equipment to this wedding venue the day after. And after like 3 hours, I'm saying like a prayer to like my like grandfather, and like we find the drone like on a cliff, just like there, like with the golden rays of light on it. I'm like, oh my God,
No
we
way.
found it. I was so happy.
And you got it? You
We got
the
the
footage?
clips, yeah.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. That is always one of my fears too. I've only crashed a drone once, but I was able to get it. It wasn't lost, so that's cool. I was gonna ask, do you fly all your drone footage too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a ton of drone footage of Philadelphia and everything, you know. But yeah, we use drone footage just like as a
Just like establishing shot.
establishing
or
shot.
something. Yeah.
I think one of the big like things in the wedding film world is not to use drone shots first. It's like it's kind of like a cliche.
Yeah.
That like there's like certain things about like really like all you have is your preferences for your style. And like a preference of mine is like no makeup shots in the film. That's like one things we don't do.
Like doing it.
Like I feel like every wedding video kind of starts with like just makeup. Yeah. And I'm like, why would a bride want shots of her before she has makeup on? Yeah. Just like stuff like that. That's just like industry stuff that.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah.
Like why would you want that? So we don't do any of that.
I do feel like even with just like the stuff that we do is like there's always a drone shot at the beginning of the video. I'm like, all right, I gotta stop doing this now. It's like the establishing shot. It's not establishing anything. It's it has nothing to do with the rest of the video. But just drones are sick though.
They're fun. They're so fun when you don't crash them.
Yeah. What do you have? What do you fly?
The Mavic Air 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the two lenses.
Okay.
That's really fun. So we can get like telephoto drone shots, which is really cool.
Okay.
I love it.
Nice. So do you do any work outside of wedding stuff?
Yeah, we do occasionally like corporate stuff, and we also make music. Like I'm an artist. My wife Mia is a musician, and I write her music. Okay. So we have like music on Spotify and Apple Music and everything.
Oh, nice.
That's what I'm doing when I'm not doing wedding films.
So that's what you really enjoy doing, the music.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm just a musician trying to find.
Yeah, that's cool.
Find my way.
I played guitar for a long time. High school, I was in a band and DJ'd for a little bit, and then was like producing electronic music like 10 years ago, and then got out of it. Found this stuff, which I've enjoyed this better. But yeah, I appreciate what you do. So
you do mostly corporate?
Mostly corporate stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the work you do. It's like I feel like it's really like a good representation of the brands.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
In like a way that doesn't feel like an ad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We don't do a lot of like traditional commercial stuff. Most of what we do is like, brand building, I don't know, like next generation, like kind of brand building stuff like YouTube and podcasts and social media content, stuff like that. And then we'll do a lot of like brand story, like corporate brand story stuff. But I haven't done a lot of like ads, like stuff that you'll see. I want to get there. I want to like a nice high-end ad, like a Super Bowl ad. I would love to produce that, like someday. But I really like working with like entrepreneurs and business owners and kind of being their marketing arm in a way.
It's so valuable
Yeah.
for an entrepreneur to be the face of their business and to be a present face on their social medias. So I think that's like where you really kill it. It's such a big bang for their buck to have like a podcast of them just like sharing their opinions and what makes them unique. So I think that's really valuable. Yeah. More so than like a traditional ad.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of that. I hope, because I feel like I found a pretty good niche with that, with like founder-led, like marketing. As they build the business, that you're kind of like documenting that process, and so yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's 20 businesses selling the identical product. It's like in Mad Men. It's like you can say whatever you want. So it's just the message that you want to give out there, that distinguishes yourself from all these competitors, which are essentially making the same thing they're making. So I think it's so important to be founder-led.
Yep. Mad Men is like one of my ultimate favorite shows of all time.
I love that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Before I even got into it, like in high school, I was watching. I was like, man, that's what I actually got into sales, because part of that was like, I thought it was just a cool, like Don Draper was like a cool dude, kind of a piece of shit, but like also cool. Yeah. Yeah. What else? So what's, the music that you make with Mia, what's that like? Tell me about.
We have a big pop punk influence in Mia's music. It's kind of like.
Do you have a band name, or is it Mia, or what's the?
Mia Cephalo.
Mia Cephalo. Okay. Yeah. I'll have to check you out then. Yeah. And you play.
Yeah, I kind of do a lot of the writing and some of the guitar work, and we have our amazing producer Jeff McKinnon, who really elevates the music, and we're trying to like. We can be the next thing. Yeah. It could be fun. Yeah.
All right. Cool. What's the? Do you guys play live at all, or?
She's in a wedding band called The Business. There's this wedding band, The Business. They tour all around. Like,
I think I've heard
live casino. And they're
nice.
Awesome to work with. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Business is great. Like if you need like a wedding band, The Business is like going to keep the party going.
Yeah.
So we really want to work together. We haven't worked together yet.
Okay.
Like our companies, but.
Yeah, you almost have like, so you have the wedding band, you have the wedding videography. You just need like a photographer, and you guys and a DJ, and then you guys are ready to go.
Yeah. We added photography this year to our wedding video, just because we found that like it's just easier to control the schedule, right? And a lot of our clients are like video first clients, like they prioritize like the video. So we just needed like we just needed to be in control of the schedule, because we find that kind of photographers kind of dominate the wedding day schedule. So that's why we have to do a lot of our interviews like the day before, or like during the drunk reception times.
Yeah. That's smart though. I think people kind of want that one-stop shop sometimes. Like,
sure, yeah.
Like you and I know that photo and video are so different, but some people just don't. They kind of see it as like one thing, like, oh, photo and video. It's like the same, same camera. Yeah. Like I'll be running around with this thing. Somebody like, hey, can you take my picture? I'm like, no.
It's like I could, but you're not gonna get it. So
this I can't. That I can. FX3 I can take a photo with.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. So do you, on a typical day how many people, or do you have like is it just you, or do you have a B cam? Do you have
we typically have 2 to 3 people on a wedding day. I have a team of 10 like contractors. Yeah. So it's a pretty big team of people that we like rotate in and out. We have a great editor. And everyone on the team kind of like believes in our like philosophy of like story first. And we kind of have like, we're aligned stylistically. So we can have like 3 weddings a day. And they're all kind of consistent across like our style, which is really awesome.
Yeah. Is that typical that you might have 2 or 3 weddings going on one day?
Yeah. Especially for like busy days like September. We usually have like usually on most Saturdays we'll have like 2 or 3 jobs a day.
That's great. Yeah. So how have you sourced, the contractors? I mean, are these, they're obviously 1099 employees, but how do you manage that? Like how did you go about finding talent, and how much have you had to develop that, train? Now we're moving over to CEO Luke here. Let's talk more about the business. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about half and half, like finding people and training people. So I've trained people and I've found people. I find that there's like pros and cons with both. So the thing about training people is you can have them do it exactly the way you want. So they don't have any bad habits from like other videography studios. And the best thing about like, I feel like the key, honestly, when hiring people is to just be at the top of the rates for the wedding videos, right? So like we're never paying people like, people always return my calls because like I pay them the most. Like we do, you know what I mean? I feel like honestly it comes down to that, is like charging enough to sustain your business so that you can pay your contractors like the top rate so that they'll always prioritize you. Yeah. So we end up getting like the best videographers in the area just because we pay the most. Yeah. And they kind of like respect our style, and they want to, I get messages from like people all over the world like wanting to join the team and be a part of it, which is really awesome. And I feel like people, like when people see the results on like social media, they're like, oh, I want to do that kind of stuff. Cause it's like when we pay people the most and we also offer creatively fulfilling work, it's not just like wedding videographer stuff. It's like we're doing interviews and like all this cool creative stuff that they feel like they're engaged with. So that's the coolest thing about like finding and hiring people, I would say.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like when your expectations, or you set the bar high and you pay well and you train people, like people are loyal, right? And you deliver a great product, and I'm sure you treat people well, and so yeah.
There's like a few things that'll kill a business that I've seen, because I've been in this for 10 years. I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of wedding companies rise and fall. 3 things that will sink a wedding company. 1, not delivering on time. So if you're delivering like a year or 2 years after the wedding, you're cooked. 2, not charging enough is the biggest mistake that I see in the wedding industry. Don't get me wrong, like weddings are very expensive and people, but if you don't charge enough, you don't have enough money to pay yourself or to pay your employees and your contractors. So if you have too much work, you end up getting burnout and then you can't deliver on time. So I see that sinking a lot of businesses. You have to treat everyone with respect in this industry. I feel like if you get a reputation of treating people like unfairly, that it's such a small community that like word gets around. Like even like the staff like of the venues, they work so hard. They work so much harder than the photographers and videographers. And sometimes I just see them being like treated like the help, and it just irks me. It's like so sad.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, the wedding industry is like its own thing, which is why I chose not to focus on it, just because like that could be like what I do then, right? Because like, the photographers, the wedding venue, the wedding planners, and the staff too. To your point too, I used to do catering. I worked for a catering company for many years. That sucked. That was brutal work. Just long day and not great pay, but
the catering company is like, they work the hardest and they're the first to get yelled at by the clients, and it's not fair for sure.
But on pricing too. Like my wife, the CEO, always is harping me to, you got to raise your prices, you got to charge more,
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. But it's like, but she's right. Like, I think there is a perception where, okay, if I'm like with anything, right? If you pay a premium, you're expecting a better thing, and you almost have like more confidence that is going to solve your problem or deliver on what you're looking for, right? So, the higher end on something typically is like, okay, I know they're professionals, they're going to be able to handle it. But if it's like really cheap, it's like, well, that's kind of, what's wrong? What'd you do? Like,
your lowest paying customers will cause the most problems with your business. They'll expect the most. Your highest paying customers will expect the least and be happy because they trust your vision.
It's so true. Yeah, it really is true. And it is important, like as a business owner myself, like just learning all of the things that, like, you know, you're maybe getting like 25, 30 cents on the dollar that you're bringing home, right? After taxes, after paying contractors, after other expenses, right? Like that. It's like all of those things you start learning as a business owner, like, wow, I really have to raise my prices because I need to eat and I need to pay my, you know, rent or mortgage or whatever, right? So,
yeah, for most people, this is kind of a hobby.
yeah,
They see it as like a hobby, but to really go full time, you have to have the guts to charge what you're worth.
I've figured that out very recently. I just went full time with this business February 1st.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I've been the last 3 years been doing this as a side hustle, and very quickly realized, you know, late last year, I was like, okay, like we were running the numbers. I'm like, definitely not charging enough, right? And again, it comes with that perception as well that, like, if we're going to be like the mainline video marketing company, we need to charge a premium. We're delivering great quality content, delivering results for business owners, right? And so we gotta charge that, right? So
100%. Yeah.
yeah. We've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of entrepreneurs as well as like with this podcast, and it's been like an MBA in and of itself. So
you've really positioned yourself as the mainline videography studio, or I don't know if you'd say videography studio. What would you consider your business?
We call ourselves a video marketing company.
That's a great.
Yeah, video marketing agency. Just because, I think like videography, and you know, no offense to videographers, but I just feel like that term, people just see that like, oh, you press a button on with a camera and then you're gone, you know, or whatever. But like, we try and be like a trusted partner with, you know, these businesses.
You can do podcasts, you can do ads, you can do like all these creative like things. So I definitely feel like marketing companies more an accurate reflection of what you do.
Yeah.
And that's so valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's getting more and more valuable. And, you know, I feel like a little nervous with like some of the AI stuff that's out there. Not really though. You know what I mean? Because first of all, you can't replicate the wedding stuff with AI, obviously, right? What I do is feel like, not yet, yeah, but I feel like what I do too is like more journalistic, documentary, more authentic type stuff. We're a long way away, if at all, from AI being able to take out some of that stuff, I think.
You can instantly tell when it's like an AI ad or something.
Some of the B-roll though, like, hey, like, you know, if I need an establishing shot of this, you know, of this wedding venue, there's probably someday I'll be able to just plug in a photo, and I mean, you can do that today. You can put in a photo and it turns into like a 3-second video or something like that. So, but yeah, there's applications for it, but I think I'm not too worried about it.
Going back to like wedding videos, the idea of wedding videos being kind of like a lower tier art form. Yeah. I was talking with someone one time, and they said that they found like an old recording of their parents who passed away, like an old voicemail of their mom. And she said like that was the greatest thing that she found, because she got to hear her mom's voice, and she forgot what her mom's voice sounded like because she'd been passed for so long. And she's like, it brought her so much like joy, and like the memories just started coming back. And like, that's my biggest inspiration with my wedding film business, is like, I want to get these people on camera, because you never know how long you have with someone. I know like we've all like lost people, and the idea of like having a one-on-one conversation with them again, you'd pay anything for it. Like it's literally like priceless. So the idea that we can provide that on a wedding day, to people, to have that for forever, and maybe like they find some comfort later on in their life through that. That's like kind of what motivates me to keep doing this.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I agree. Like there's so many times that I feel like, I'd love to sit down with, my parents or my wife's parents and just kind of have like an interview with them. And I always wish that like I had more of that, like with my grandparents and stuff like that before they passed away. So like having those memories like kind of like solidified within a family like is so important. It's so cool. So I agree. Yeah. Like a wedding day, capturing that wedding day is such an amazing, product that you're putting together for them.
It's a great opportunity to get those people on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be the only time.
It's probably
ever.
the only time, it's the only opportunity ever that you have to get some of your family on camera.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's such a rare thing to have all these people in a room together that love you. When does that happen in your life? You know?
Not often.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So let's capture it. Yeah. Weddings are an interesting combination of like a religious ceremony and an extravagant party. And I always thought that was like so interesting. It's such a weird world,
What was the most extravagant party or wedding that you've ever been to?
I gotta be honest, like I've been to so many I've been to so many like expensive, classy events that like the extravagance of it all doesn't really like faze me anymore. I get more invested when like the family really loves each other, and you can tell that like that the families really love each other and they're coming together for the couple. That's kind of like what really excites me is when you can tell that like there's a lot of love in the room. That's what I like always remember. Is like how much they love each other. Yeah. I feel like that's like that leaves a mark on me. Like, yeah, there's like been like amazing like floral, people spend like $500,000 on just flowers, stuff like that. But you remember the vibe in the room more than anything.
Yeah, that's great. What about destinations? Have you ever been? Do you do destination weddings?
Yeah, we do a few destinations a year. One of my favorite destination weddings we've done is we did the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. That was really fun. There's a saying in the photography community. It's like, is it luxury or is it Italy? Like basically saying like, if you take any shot in some of these locations, it looks beautiful. Like Italy is just cinematic and beautiful. Like that's why there's so many photographers in like Utah, because you just take a picture and it's like the canyons and it just goes on forever. It's so like breathtaking. So destination weddings are really cool for that. In that aspect is like taking your work to a next level just by changing the background.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much beauty you can extract from New Jersey.
Hey, New Jersey is actually like it's sleeping on some like really nice areas. Jersey gets like a bad rap because like
I agree.
Yeah, and actually, I was just watching something the other day because Netflix, is building. Do you hear about this? They're building like $1 billion.
Oh, in New Jersey
studio,
in like Atlantic City, right?
Up north, like Fort Monmouth. It's like a military base that they're converting into a Netflix studio, and they were kind of like breaking it down because you have the beaches. Obviously, you have the beaches. You have like Newark, which is kind of like could look like New York City, like downtown. So you could film there, but it's not in New York, obviously. And then you have, I forget what the other city is, but it's like a Washington, D.C. look-alike in Jersey.
Like Trenton?
Trenton, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're kind of breaking it down, all these like, and then there's like the Pine Barrens, and there's mountains, and there's farmland, South Jersey. Like it's got a wide variety, and they have really good tax incentives for the film industry now. So Jersey's about to blow up, I think.
I agree. Jersey has been undervalued.
Yeah.
I think we're ready to make Jersey great again.
Yeah, it's always been like between Philly and New York, just like the taint between the two.
Yeah.
And but now I think Jersey's pretty great actually.
I'm from Jersey.
Yeah.
I love New Jersey. I feel like everyone leaves New Jersey and then comes back to New Jersey. So
I was like, because I grew up in central Pennsylvania, and so everyone out there is just like white and like a hick, and like, and it was awesome. My town was like, I always joke was like varsity blues, like just just kind of like, have you ever seen a movie? Just small town football, like Friday Night Lights, like, and then I like went to school out in Westchester, out this way, and like there was all these people from Jersey, and I've never met anyone from New Jersey. I was like, wow, like, and then my whole I don't know, my whole perspective was based on like Jersey, what is it, like the Jersey Shore show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like, these people are real. Like this is real. Like
they are real.
You know, but yeah, I don't know. I like New Jersey. So anyways. So what's next for Bernardi Films?
You know what's next for Bernardi Films is we need our Netflix documentary. I think we need a Netflix documentary about the wedding industry and following around the crazy people that exist in the wedding industry, because it's a funny group of people. And I feel like if they had a camera, if we did like a reality TV show, I think it'd be really entertaining.
About like the industry, like the people, like photographers.
Like follow like I'm gonna find like the nuttiest planners and like the nuttiest like photographers and just follow them around and just. That'd
be fun.
I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you need a producer or someone to hold a boom mic, I'm happy to do that for you. Yeah,
dude, we got New Jersey as like the film capital of the world. We need to
make. There you go.
I would love to make. I've always wanted to make like a romantic comedy or like bring back like a sitcom. You know, I think that would be so fun.
Yeah, my goals, probably not for this year, is to do a feature documentary. I have no interest in narrative, movies, but a feature documentary, that we put together and submit to film festivals, I think. But then also, I've been manifesting a client win around like a realtor, so kind of like a Selling Sunset or some of these like reality shows, these real estate reality shows. I want to do that for like a brokerage team around here. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be really cool.
Like a monthly YouTube show where it's like you're interviewing all these like realtors, kind of following their lives, them showing their, their homes, but kind of getting, the nightlife and whatnot. So similar to like the reality shows that you do for the wedding, but do that. You could do that for realtors. You could do it for a variety of businesses, right? So I'm trying to find that.
Delco downtown.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much you could do.
I feel like that's going to be a big thing. Like, man, because they all watch Selling Sunset.
Yeah.
They all want to be that.
Yeah, and they have the money, Yeah. Although, I never got into real estate, photography, or videography, and I won't just because.
So what you're trying to do is way above like real estate, photography, and videography, which is just like, how can I get the cheapest photo video?
And that's why I never got into
my listing.
It. Yeah.
But what you're trying to do is you're trying to like actually make these people like
build a brand,
famous. Yeah. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I've pitched a couple of them and they're like, couldn't believe the price, but I'm still figuring some of that stuff out. But like, I just feel like there's so many realtors out there that how do you differentiate yourself, right? And you do that through content. It's any business, right? You need to differentiate yourselves through this medium. So
yes, 100%.
So actually, on that topic too, you also do a lot of good like breakdowns, like on your social, right? You do some nice reels where you kind of talk about, what's that process been like? How do you market yourself?
I'm so glad you asked me about that. Yeah. So I found out a long time ago that people are more interested in watching how you work over what you put out, over your actual work. Yeah. So by showing like how I make the music, people really respond well to that because they feel like they're on the journey with you. And that's really fun. I feel like that's an underutilized tool in this business. Yeah. People just think like they can post their photos without any context and people will just like it. No, people want to know the story behind what you're doing. They want to know, like, how are you doing that? So
they want to feel the struggle, and be a part of the process and be, behind the scenes and everything, right?
Yeah, I want to take you along the journey with me.
Yeah. I didn't even know that you compose your own music until I saw like a reel of you like sitting at your computer with your guitar. I was like, holy shit! Like, exactly. Yeah.
It's the difference between telling someone something and showing someone what you do.
Yeah.
that's really important for differentiating your business. Yeah, and the more you can do that, the more you can show versus tell, the more successful your social media will be. Yeah, in my opinion.
True. Cool. Well, how can people find you?
Oh, find me on Instagram and TikTok at Bernardi Films. You've probably seen me. I make the original music to the wedding films. We have like over 5 million views on Instagram, so it's been really fun.
Yeah, no, it's all. I really appreciate the work that you do. I mean, it's amazing. Like the quality. Like, I would never reach out to anyone else, like any other wedding filmmaker. I think just because your work's so cool, and yeah, I just appreciate it. So, yeah, nice meeting you. I mean, this is the first time we've ever spoken. So,
thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for being on here. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening today. This was an original production by Shoemaker Films, LLC. If you enjoyed today's content, please consider subscribing on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your content. Follow us on Instagram at shoemaker.films. If you're a business either interested in our services or you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, please get in touch by using the contact form on our website, shoemakerfilms.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.